think this is off. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Reverend Sherri's Metaphysical Bible Hangout. I am Reverend Sherri James, Senior Minister of Understanding Principles Church in Los Angeles, California. If you are ever in the Los Angeles area, it would make my day to have you come join us on a Sunday. Our services are at 1 p.m. every Sunday at 600 West Queen Street in Inglewood, California. And it is a wonderful, warm, and loving congregation of people. Anybody who's ever been there, you know that we love to celebrate God and just have a good time doing it. And so we really would love to see you on that on Sunday. Get a couple folks in. Ray, I see you. I just pulled you in as a speaker. If there's anybody else in the chat room who wants to come in live as a speaker, you will need a Gmail account, but just raise your hand and I'll be able to bring you in as a speaker. So let me know if you're interested. Okay, let's get going. We are in the middle of this incredible series, and tonight is probably going to be one of my favorite subjects, which is the subject of forgiveness. Forgiveness is powerful, one of the most powerful slideshow. Okay, goodness, they changed the thing. So this series that we've been doing is from the text Working with the Law by Raymond Hollowell. And I have been focusing it on your business because I find that a number of people in my spiritual community online are business owners, whether they are sole proprietors, they have consultancies, or other business practices. And so I wanted to make this series relevant to our lives. One of the things that that I realized as a spiritual teacher that's important for me is to really understand that my business is an extension of myself. And I am not so by definition, then, my business is a spiritual enterprise. And I live in a spiritual universe, so does my business also live in a spiritual universe. And these principles that we use, that we learn on Sunday in our churches all around the Universal Foundation for Better Living and other New Thought organizations, they don't just apply to us, meaning personally, they apply to our business as well. So this series, I have focused it because I want you to begin to take these lessons and employ them in your day-to-day life. It's not enough to just simply get them on Sunday. We must also carry them Monday through Saturday because that's part of the process as well. I just pulled in Myra and Gina. If you guys can mute yourselves, I'm trying to mute you. And I think, Myra, I'm having difficulty muting your mic. So just be mindful of any noise in the background. All right. So our outline for tonight, got a few announcements. We'll do our opening prayer. We'll talk about what is the law. You guys know that handy dandy slide that I use for everything for this, just because I want to really drill this in. Repetition is so important with really grasping this. And I had a revelation, I'm going to share that with you too, about why I keep doing this slide this way. We're going to look at some real world examples of applying the law, and then we're going to look at what is the law of forgiveness, what is the key to the law of forgiveness, what does it mean to really just let it go, and then we're going to look at 4 reasons that forgiveness is a sound business strategy. If you want to follow along on the blog, I always marry what we are studying on Thursday nights with what I write about on the blog, and so there's a companion piece about tonight's lesson at revsherri.com, and you can go right there, and I'd be ever so grateful if you would leave me a comment on the blog. My new teleseminar, September 1st. Oh my word, I tell you, getting this baby up and going has been a work of heart. But join my newsletter to stay in the loop. I'm really excited about this course. It for sure is going to be my best course because it is combining literally everything that I have learned about prosperity for the last 20-some odd years studying New Thought, and I plan to really sort of condense it all into this 7-week course, and I invite you to join me for that. We are on a platform called Webinar Jam, and it's an overlay on Google Hangout. So the only way that you would catch it on Google Hangout is if you just happen to be on Google Plus, like the moment that we're doing the Bible Hangout, right? But the way that you can stay informed is actually to join my newsletter. I send out a link on Tuesdays to those that are on the my MBH Insiders to give you an opportunity to register early and join me early. And then on Thursday, I send out kind of a general invitation to my full list, email list. So make sure you get on the list so that you can be aware of not just the Bible Hangout, but also other free things that I am making available to my spiritual community online. The scriptures for this 11-part series, there are two. The first is Proverbs 23:7. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And this is going to be so appropriate because this is what we're talking, everything that we're talking about with forgiveness tonight is all about the heart. And then Romans 13:10, love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. And I can't stress that enough because everything that we have been studying in this series is what it means. Like when you say you love, this is how it shows up in the form of forgiveness. When you say you love, this is how it shows up in the form of non-resistance. So love is so much more than just what comes out of your mouth, the I love you. It's so much more than just an affection. That it is absolutely an action, and there are actions that you do that help you fulfill the law. And that is how love fulfills the law. And we talk about Jesus as modeling and being the fulfillment of the law. Opening prayer. If you could just take a moment to relax and let go of everything that has happened before this moment. All is well, no matter what the appearance is. Let's just take a moment to shake off anything that has our attention. Take a moment to scan your body. If there's any tension anywhere in the shoulders or in your back or in your abdomen or in the brow or jaw, wherever you carry your tension. Maybe your legs are tight or something like that. Thank you, God. And once you've gotten your body to a space of peace and calm, then I want you to put your attention on your emotions. Is there anything that's pulling your attention? Anything that is calling you, whatever that is, and I want you to speak to it and say, peace, be still. Peace, be still. Peace, be still. And then simply breathe. Thank you, God. Thank you so much for this class. Thank you for this platform. Thank you so much for everything that we are going to learn together tonight. We have come together for the purpose of growing spiritually, and we thank you in advance for every juicy spiritual nugget that we're going to grab hold to tonight and run with. Thank you, thank you, thank you, God. And so it is, and amen. All right. Had a couple calls coming in there, like right in the middle of that. Let me check the chat room, see if there's anybody else that is asking. Okay, if there's anyone in the chat room that wants to join live, you can simply raise your hand and I'll be able to bring you in. All right. So back to this card. This is my favorite little card, right? So, so weird that that's happening. So God, what is the law? God as law. And I've said this every week that God working in our lives is the law. And spiritual law is a term that we use to describe the way that we experience God in our everyday lives. So it is a synonym for God. It is not a replacement. It is not a different God. It's not even really a new way to think about God. It's just a way to explain how it is that we experience God in our physical life. And I have been using, the other slides in this presentation change from week to week to week. But every week in this slide presentation, I have brought this same slide in because I want the information to really be anchored in. And I got a revelation about that. I was working with Jordan, and I've been doing something that a friend of mine recommended. You would think I would have thought of it, being a Bible teacher. But something that he does with his children is that before they go to bed at night, he and his wife have Bible with them. And I don't know what their Bible study looks like, but I imagine that he's reading stories to them. Well, Jordan is at an age where I'm not able to, read to him, and he will sit still. Like, that just doesn't happen. But what I do have is I have this book of Bible stories that one of my members, Angela Seymour, gave me as a birthday gift. And so it has all of these amazing pictures. And so literally every night before I put him to bed, we sit with the book and I point out the pictures. Now I'm not even worried about the stories at this point. Let's just memorize the pictures. But what's happening is that he's starting to remember the pictures. And so he's starting to associate the picture with the sound that he hears coming out of my mouth. And so I'll point and, like, there's a picture of a leopard, and I'll say leopard, and I'll point to the leopard. And then I'll see another picture and I'll say sheep, and I'll point to the sheep. And then I'll ask him, can you say sheep? And he'll say sheep, or it doesn't come out quite that clear, but it's something like that, right? And one of the things that I realize is that over time, he gets a little bit better with recognizing the sheep. And I imagine that one night we're going to sit there and he's going to point out the sheep before I actually point out the sheep. I'm living for that night. But I have to detach from the moment of when he is going to grasp the idea that here is this book and here are these sheep, and they keep appearing in this book, and my auntie keeps calling them sheep, right? Well, our minds work like that. We're so patient with babies as they're grasping a new concept. But with ourselves, it is as if we want us to get it in the instant that we hear it. And that simply is just not how any human being works. Anything that you have grasped in the moment, a foundation has been laid, and you may not be aware of that foundation, but the foundation has actually and absolutely been laid so that in that moment that you get that aha moment, that there's been all of this other work that has been happening along the way to produce that aha moment. So nothing just happens overnight. And so I've been using this same slide over and over again and reiterating the same concept of God as law, God as law, God as law, and trying to explain what it is, because our minds need us to keep presenting an idea to it before it will grab hold to that idea and make it its own. Something else I learned, I have an occupational therapist that comes to help me with Jordan on Wednesdays now, and she explained to me, I didn't know this, I'm learning to be a parent just like I'm learning to be a pastor, so it's all at one time right now. And what she explained to me is that with children, and you guys, those of you that have parents, that already parent, don't laugh at me, I'm new to this whole game, all right? So that with children, with food, that it's first that they have to touch it. Then they have to smell it, look at it, touch it, smell it. There's a whole series of things that happens before they get to taste. And so getting a child to then eat, and especially a child who's as picky as Jordan is an exercise in patience and allowing, like, continuing to introduce the information to him. I can see my Deidre in my own mind's eye. I can see Deidre saying, I told you that. I told you that. Yes, you did, Deidre. You told me. But the point is that our minds work the same way. And so these concepts that we are studying about how God shows up in our experience, how God works. Some of us have been in this for 20 years, and it's still taking a moment for this information to click. And what we have to remember is that we have to be patient with ourselves and consistent with ourselves. Because if at any moment I stop doing the things that I'm doing, for example, when Jordan first came to stay with me, I fixed him not macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, right? Some good, rich, delicious, buttery, milky mashed potatoes, just delicious, right? Well, here's the thing. So I can't stand to waste food. And what was happening was that I was making enough to feed 10 people, and he was only eating enough for himself, which was like probably not even my handful, but his handful. And so what would happen is that I was eating the mashed potatoes. I'm like, this isn't on my diet plan. So I stopped fixing the mashed potatoes because I was like, okay, I need to I can't figure out how not to eat the mashed potatoes. So guess what? I'm not going to fix it for him that often. Well, guess what? I can't get mashed potatoes near his mouth. And sometimes that's how we are with our affirmations, is that we start out saying, I am wealth, I am health, I am love, right? And then life happens and we go in a different direction. And the thing is that we don't consider the fact that we have to keep introducing the idea to the mind over and over and over again. It takes time for the mind to latch onto it. And it is only when we fervently hold to something, that we continually introduce an idea to the mind, that the mind finally grasps it and makes it its own. And so now all the work that I'd done, or whatever had been done to get him to eat mashed potatoes, I now have to start over. And it's the same thing with us. That when we stop developing ourselves and stop focusing on our affirmations and on our training, all of a sudden we've got to start over. It's just like the baby. So this is why I use this card again and again and again, because I want to drive home this concept of God as law. That when God works in our lives, the way that we talk about, or a term to use to explain how God shows up in our experience, is the term spiritual law. So I hope that clarifies it, and I also hope it helps you understand why I keep introducing this same card over and over again. So a couple of real-world examples we're talking about the law of forgiveness tonight. And I love this woman. If you ever get a chance to hear her speak, and I do it, and if you can go down and hang out with her at her retreat center, I think in Alabama, please do it. She is an ordained unity minister. She is the author of the 4 spiritual laws of prosperity. And one of the laws of prosperity is forgiveness. And she documents her use of forgiveness in her book to grow herself personally and her business professionally. And she was one of our speakers at the Panorama of Truth, and she's just phenomenal. And one of the things that was remarkable about her talk is that she talked about what she did for forgiveness, and I appreciated it because I journal my prayers. It's one of the ways that I learned to pray consistently, and I'd never heard the idea of journaling prayer, so it was something that I just kind of fell into. Judy says, Edwina is the best. She is. I have heard her speak in person 3 times. Her forgiveness prayer for her ex-husband is one that I say every day. Absolutely. It is. So with forgiveness, she talks about this 70 times 7. And when you talk about 70 times 7, and Hollowell explains this in his book, that he says, I'm reading on page 139, Peter, the disciple, was greatly perplexed one time while listening to one of the many lessons of the Master. He raised the question, which is the basis of this lesson. Turning to Jesus, he asked, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Until 7 times, which was customary in the Jewish law, and which he had known allowed a man to be forgiven 3 times. So 7 was like going above and beyond. But he found himself more perplexed when Jesus answered, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Such a period would be indefinitely. So by that answer, there are no limits or restrictions to the Spirit graces. The quality of forgiveness must be as limitless and timeless as faith, hope, and love. Marvin says, when you say law, I hear principle. Law is a very overused word with so many meanings. You know, Marvin, it is. And I find that with New Thought, one of the things that we are continually doing is redefining words. That we are, and what we say about law versus principle is that principle is fundamental truth. It is that which does not change. So, for example, the omnipresence of God is fundamental truth, that it is fundamentally true that God is everywhere evenly present. How that works, so the law then is how that principle works. So how does omnipresence function as love? Or how does omnipresence function as gravity? Or how does omnipresence function as, and so the law explains, spiritual law explains how the principle works. So the principle is what it is, the law is how it works. Hope that clears it up just a little bit. I need to check the chat room to see if there are any comments. Nope. So anyway, the thing is, and this is what Wayne talks about in her book, is, and what she talked about at Panorama of Truth, is that it's that forgiveness, that you forgive until you completely reduce the charge within you for anything. And how do you know that you have completely forgiven? That it no longer resonates with you, that there's no feeling in you for it. If by mention of someone's name or mention of some experience, all of that emotion begins to come up, there's still additional forgiveness work to do. So you know, and only you can decide that. Only you can decide that. Meaning, only you can determine whether or not forgiveness has actually happened in your experience. But you know that it has happened. You can judge yourself according to whether or not it has happened as to whether or not it raises any emotion inside of you. If it does not touch you emotionally, then the charge, if you will, has been reduced back to the nothingness from which it came. And so that's what you're looking for, that you forgive until it no longer resonates inside of you, until the mention of that person's name or the mention or even thinking about that incident, it doesn't touch you one way or the other. You completely let it go. That is what forgiveness is, and that's why you can forgive and forget. Incidentally, we'll get to this with forgiveness, but incidentally with forgiveness and why you can forget, because some people will say, well, I'll forgive, but I won't forget. Well, you haven't forgiven, because forgiving includes forgetfulness, meaning forgetting the concept entirely. And I'll explain why that's possible, and why that is what you are aiming for spiritually. And I use this girl, this is my 3rd time bringing her up, but I think she's so remarkable. She had a quote in the article that was written on her in, I believe it was Vanity Fair. This is Michaela DePrince, and Michaela was orphaned. Her father was killed in a civil war in Sierra Leone, and she and her mom went to live with her uncle. And the uncle was so cruel to them that he essentially starved them to death. Her mom ended up taking her life. And Michaela was sent to live in an orphanage at a very, very young age. And she also had vitiligo, which, as you guys know, that was a condition that Michael Jackson had, where the pigmentation in the skin would leave, and it would leave these kind of splotchy marks because the skin would be missing the full pigmentation. So she was called the devil's child, and really just mistreated, completely mistreated as a little girl. But she, being in the orphanage, she just held on to the idea that she could possibly be adopted, even though she was being told that she was the devil's child. And one day, a picture from a magazine blew in, and it had a ballerina in a beautiful balletic pose. And at that moment, she decided, this is what I want to be. And when she was finally adopted by, I don't remember the woman, Elaine, I think Elaine DePrince from New Jersey, she handed her that picture as to say, like, here, take me, and this is what I want to become. And so Elaine wonderfully perceives this and enrolls her. And this young lady goes on to win a major competition for the American Ballet Theater, and she now dances with the Royal Dutch Ballet in Amsterdam. And in this article, because she's only 20, somewhere around 2021, but what she says in this article is that you don't have to hold on to your past. If you can find a way to overcome the bad parts, great things can happen. And I love that, because she is truly the law of forgiveness in action. You don't have to hold on to your past. So many of us compromise our potential for greatness by holding on to the things that have happened to us. Everybody has something that has happened to them. We could sit in a circle and go around, and everybody would be able to identify something that has happened to them that has irritated them, set them back. I have a good friend who, her mom, she never knew her father. Her father left when she was only, I think, 6 weeks old or something like that, very, very young. And she spent a lifetime wondering why he left, and all of those feelings that come up, from being abandoned by a parent. And she always felt like if all the kids were on the starting line, that she was simply a step back. And that whereas everybody else had like a jump ahead, because they all had, in her perception, active fathers in their lives, that she was, somehow, began at a earlier point and not at the starting gate with all the other kids. All of us have that feeling on some level about something, whether it is professional, personal, whatever it is. But it is using forgiveness to release that feeling, to release this idea that somehow that you have missed out, and to recognize that you are 100% complete right where you are, and that there is nothing that has been withheld from you, no matter what your experience has looked like. That is what forgiveness helps you to do. So in any place in your life where you feel incomplete, whatever that is, if you feel like you've missed out on having children, or you've missed out on your career, or missed out on whatever it is you think you have missed out on, that is a place where you want to begin to employ some forgiveness. And so we're going to talk about tonight about some of the different ways that forgiveness shows up, because generally forgiveness has been talked about as what you give to someone who's done you wrong, but it's such a broader topic than just that narrow focus. So what is the law of forgiveness? So the key to the law of forgiveness is found in Luke 6:37. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. So the way that forgiveness works, right? So forgiveness is compassion. It's compassion for whatever has, done you wrong, didn't go the way you wanted to, angered you, whatever, right? The way that principle works is that you forgive, and when you forgive, you are forgiven. So whatever you let go, lets go of you. And whatever you hold on to, holds on to you. And what forgiveness does, and what the key is this daily releasing. And Paul says, I die daily. That I die daily to the old me. I die daily to this concept of who I think I am. and I awake to a new creation in Christ. This is what forgiveness is about. It is about a letting go. It is letting go of the emotional charge on any particular situation, whether it is a mistake that you made against someone else, or a mistake that was made that someone made against you, or an oversight, or any of that. Wherever it is that you feel stuck or incomplete or retarded or restrained or otherwise held back, it is to recognize that there is something that you are holding on to that you need to let go of. Generally, it is somebody that you're holding on to emotionally, and it's time to let it go. It's time to release this person from your mind, to completely free them. And the way that forgiveness works is that you give it and it is given to you. Forgive and you shall be forgiven. If you will not forgive, then you cannot be forgiven. And Jesus gives this formula over and over and over again. He also gives it in what we understand to be the Lord's Prayer. It says, forgive us our debts as we forgive those who have debts against us. That it is this reciprocal process that happens. So in order for me to have forgiveness, I must loose others that need my forgiveness. Let me know if you have any questions about that, if anything is unclear. Okay. Hopefully you see me. I'm on. Oh no. What about now? Can you see me?
I see you and hear you, Sherri.
You see me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like I lost my internet connection there for a second. Mercy. Silly internet. All right. How odd. Okay. All right. I'm gonna trust that this is all gonna keep working. So, um, so weird. Okay. All right. Gonna keep going. Okay, great. All right. Hopefully, it looks like I lost Marvin there. Okay, so the thing about forgiveness is that forgiveness is a work of heart, and the heart is the subconscious mind. Oh, Constance says I'm fuzzy but seeable. Oh, good grief. I feel like, good grief, Charlie Brown. Okay. Hey, it looks fine on my end, and I have all of my bars for my internet, so. JJ says it's late. We're all a little fuzzy. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay, Myra says at least your voice isn't fuzzy. Okay, good, 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 good. So the thing about forgiveness is that it is a work of heart, and it is out of the subconscious phase of mind that all of our experiences come. That it is not just what you think about consciously, but it is what you feel deeply within your subconscious mind. And when we talk about clearing the mind, that is the aspect of the mind that we're talking about clearing. We're clearing up the false concepts that we have about the universe, about ourselves, about God. Those are the things that we want to clean up. Forgiveness is your remedy to do that. Forgiveness is that work that clears the heart and that cleans the heart out. And so one of the things that you've got to forgive even is the idea that you can be harmed, because in truth you are the Christ in expression. Now, you are not the Christ in totality, and you may not be expressing the Christ in this moment, but you are absolutely the Christ in expression, and everyone is in varying degrees of expression. And so there is nothing in reality that can ever be done to you. And so sometimes you're forgiving even the belief that somebody can harm you. So sometimes you're forgiving the person, but you also have got to move past the idea that someone has the ability to harm you. No one has the ability to harm you. There is a part of you that has never been touched, has never been damaged, has never been forsaken, has never been sullied, has never been messed up, abused, or anything. If you will take your attention off of the exterior, which someone does have the ability to touch, and put it on the interior, which is the Christ presence within you, you will begin to burn off the places where you have been harmed physically. And I mean that literally and metaphorically. That if you put your attention on that Christ presence, it begins to shift your outer world. Most times we are watching the outer world, and we're saying it's not changing, it's not changing. And it's like, because you're keeping it alive, you keep giving it your attention. And remember what I said, like the baby, if I, took a month off or 2 months off of giving him mashed potatoes, so I wouldn't eat mashed potatoes, and now I can't get him to eat mashed potatoes. And it's the same thing with us. It's like you take a month off of affirmations or the affirmation you're working with, and it's like starting over again. And then you say, this stuff doesn't work. This is all fantastical. Well, that works for Johnny Coleman, or that works for Mary Tumpkin, or that works for, Marianne Williamson. And it's like, no, it works for you too. But you've got to be as fervent with it. And the things that you persist with, your mind grabs hold to it. But the mind doesn't grab hold the first time you give it. Remember, it processes things. We don't change the way we process things. That's consistent through your entire lifetime. What happens is that you build up a repertoire, so it becomes easier in your mind for things to like latch onto. But there's all this foundation work that you've been doing over a lifetime. So of course it feels like an overnight aha moment, but it's not. And so it's the same thing, that it's constantly introducing the idea. Gently introducing the idea, and eventually, and it's a suggestion. This is what affirmations are. It's a suggestion to the mind. When you say, I am rich, it is a suggestion to the mind that I am rich. When you say, I am health, I am wealth, it is a suggestion to the mind, I am health, I am wealth. And when you continually suggest it to the mind, eventually the mind starts to hold on to the idea. If you are persistent with it, it simply speeds up the process. So just like I'm sitting and I'm saying sheep, and I get him to repeat after me, sheep, sheep. One night, he's going to say sheep before I get to say sheep. And it's the same thing with your mind. One day, you're going to say, I am rich, before you make the suggestion to your mind. What forgiveness does is that it gets rid of all of the faulty beliefs. So I forgive myself for believing that I can be broke. I forgive myself for believing that someone can harm me. I forgive myself for believing that there's some kind of virtue in poverty. I forgive myself for believing that someone has something that I don't have. I forgive myself for believing that somehow God would bless someone else and not bless me. I forgive myself for this faulty thinking. Luke 6:45 says, a good man brings good things out of the good stored up in his heart. And an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in his heart. For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. I love this verse because if you, again, using this example of Jordan, I'm learning so many life lessons just working with him, but I am storing up the idea of sheep in his mind, meaning the association of that word with the picture. I'm building up, I'm storing it up. And as you do your affirmations, that's what you're storing up in your heart. And then the mouth reveals to you what has been stored up. So the question is, what are you talking about these days? What has your attention? What is the thing that you know, when it occurs to you to talk, that you talk about? What is that? Because that tells you what you have stored up in your heart. Think about what is your primary conversation inside of a day. What is that primary conversation that you have on any given day? Because that's what's stored up in your heart. You want prosperity. I want prosperity, right? But what have you stored up in your heart? When an opportunity to spend whatever is a lot of money to you comes up, what do you say about it? Because whatever you say about it is what you have stored up in your heart. Forgiveness is a work of heart. It is a clearing of the heart space of faulty ideas about God and you and the universe that you inhabit. You've got to clean up this idea that you've got to work hard for money. Not true. Only true if you accept it to be true. You've got to clean up this idea that somehow where you are is a function only of what you do. Yes, your actions have put you where you are, but your thoughts preceded your actions. Change your thoughts, your actions follow suit. And so forgiveness cleans up the thinking so that the acting will be in alignment with the grace and the will of God for you, which is absolute good. So what is the law of forgiveness? Is let it go. Let it go, Snoopy. Let it go. Whatever has your heart, if it's anger that has your heart, let it go. If it is disappointment that has your heart, let it go. If it is feeling like, you know, this family is just unfair towards me, let it go. Forgiveness frees you. You know, many times we don't want to like forgive the other person, but the thing is that it's us that gets freed in the forgiveness process. In fact, you don't even have any control over whether or not they're on the hook, because they've got to forgive themselves within themselves. And forgiveness is transformative. The example I was going to use, and I just decided not to because I feel like, you know, we've talked about it ad nauseum, is the families of the 9 people who were killed in South Carolina. Because their forgiveness set in motion a cause that changed the energy of the country. Think about how long the Confederate flag has been flying, and now the movement in the country, like, wait a minute, this is not okay. Forgiveness changes your world. Dare to do it. Forgive and see, just see what happens. Just see what happens. And yes, forgiveness took down that flag. Write it down if you need to. This is what Edwene talks about, is that she would write it down 35 times in the morning and 35 times in the evening, and saying the same forgiveness. I forgive, I don't know if it was her ex-husband, but whoever she's forgiven, I forgive so-and-so for this, I forgive. And you just write it down 35 times in the morning, 35 times in the evening. She took that 70 literally. And you just keep doing it until it is out of you. And you know when it's out of you, and make it a daily practice. This is not a sometimey kind of thing. Keep doing it until it is no longer in you. See, the thing is that we often don't know what the things that we hold on to are blocking. We often do not know what the things that we hold on to are blocking because we can't see it. We're holding on to whatever anger we're holding on to. We're holding on to whatever grudges we're holding on to, and we cannot see what is in the way. But I promise you, if you will simply begin to forgive, just start, and just see what things come in the process. There's a transformation that can happen, but it can only happen if you let go of what you are holding on to right now. Alita says, so when you are afraid or sad for no reason, it's coming from the subconscious. Oh, amen. Alita says that. So when you are sad, when you are afraid or sad for no reason, it's coming from the, everything is coming from the subconscious. Everything is coming from the subconscious. It is information that has been stored in terms of how it's a pattern. It's a pattern. And so the forgiveness roots out the pattern. So how to work the law of forgiveness. So these are 4 ways that forgiveness can help you in your business, help you in your life. Forgiveness makes you greater than whatever it is that you are forgiving. A man who is great enough to forgive is always greater than the forgiven. This is a direct quote from Hollowell. He is superior, he is greater than his adversary. When you forgive yourself for holding on to anger, you are greater than the version of you that held on to anger. When you forgive yourself for the mistakes that you made, you are greater than the version of you that made the mistake. Often we have difficulty forgiving ourselves, and so we keep the old versions of ourselves alive. And we keep them alive unintentionally. You know, the person who did that wrong, you want that person to go ahead and die off. But when you won't forgive yourself, you keep that aspect of yourself alive. You must release yourself from the mistakes that you have made. Whatever mistake you have made, a couple things to understand. Everything that anybody ever does is in service to some need that they have on a soul level. And the way that they try to meet the need is the way that they understand the need. One of the story I'm going to be preaching from this Sunday is the story of the woman caught in adultery in John chapter 8. And Jesus says, you know, basically, you're forgiven, go and sin no more. This is a quote from Michael Beckwith, behind every human aberration is a spiritual aspiration. The things that are the mistakes that we make are things that we were trying to fulfill a spiritual need on a physical level. Try to see if I can clear that up. What I mean is that in this woman's mind in the story, I can only have love in this compromised way. Now, we don't know who, we just know it was adultery, so we don't know if she was married, he was married, they both were married, we're not sure, but somebody was not, somebody shouldn't have been in that relationship, right? One or both of them. So we don't know what those circumstances are. We just know that she was caught in adultery. When we make mistakes, it is because this is the way that we understand how to get our needs met. That in my universe, the universe is not just. So there is no way for me to get my needs met in a way that is honorable. And I must sneak and take from another in order for my needs to be met. This is the concept, right? And when I believe that the universe is not just, then I'm willing to cheat, because that's the only way for me to have. But when I understand that the universe is just, then I can follow right channels and get my need for love met. Anyone who makes a mistake, whatever that mistake is, it's simply that was the way they understood how to get their need met. Whether someone has killed someone, stolen from someone, had an affair with someone, whatever it is a belief that this is the way that I need to get this need met. One of the people who does an excellent job of explaining this concept, and I feel like I'm going to be rushing a little bit because I got about 9 minutes before we got to get out of here, is Marshall Rosenberg. Marshall Rosenberg wrote a book called Nonviolent Communication. And he was probably the first person that explained this for me in a way that I really grasped it. That whatever we do in service to a need, whether even if it's something as gross as molesting a child, that there is some need, and this is how the person understands how to get that need met. And growing up spiritually and developing spiritual maturity is learning how to meet your needs in a way that does not violate the needs and rights and privileges of another person. That's what spiritual maturity is. Spiritual maturity is recognizing that I live in a universe where my needs can get met with no harm to another person. My needs can get met. I don't have to cheat anybody. I don't have to withhold any information. You know, you start going for a contract, and it's like, I'm not going to tell so-and-so about this because then they'll run in and take advantage of it. That's a belief that somehow my universe is not fair and that I've got to keep information from somebody else in order to have. And this is why I say that forgiveness is a strategy that you want to bring into your business, because you think about and I'm not talking about going out and giving away your trade secrets, because you absolutely are meant to have your competitive advantage. What I'm talking about is unfair lying. Some of the things that people do in the name of competition, where they disadvantage another person, thinking that that's how I have to get ahead. That's what I'm referring to, where you do harm to another for personal gain. It is clearing up that understanding of the universe that cleans up how you run your business. Because here's the thing, there are no causes that do not produce an effect. And if you cheat to get ahead, it's coming back. It's coming back. And the thing is that a lot of times it comes back in a way that you don't expect it. And so you don't connect the dots. You don't see that this thing that I did that nobody could trace and see that I did, right? Even if you investigated it, you'd never figure out that it was like me that did it, right? You may be hiding from humanity and humankind, but you're not hiding from the universe. God is not mocked. Whatever you reap, you will sow. If you carry unethical practices into your business, then those unethical practices are seeds that you sow, and they must come back. Now, here's the thing. You're doing that because that's how you believe you need to get your needs met, and you don't believe that they can be met any other kind of way. What forgiveness does is it cleans out your faulty concept. It cleans out the belief that somehow I've got to do harm to another in order to get ahead, or I've got to withhold information in order to get ahead. or that in order for me to have, somebody else has got to have not, or vice versa. Forgiveness cleans up, when it's true forgiveness, not the stuff we just kind of parrot out of our mouth, but forgiveness cleans up our concept of the universe as anything but just and fair and faithful. That I work these spiritual laws, that I work with these concepts of God as love and the law of giving and the law of increase and the law of non-resistance. I work with these concepts. I trust these concepts. When it says, oh God, I put my trust in thee, I trust that I can praise something and it will increase. And I don't have to lie or cheat or do something underhanded in order to get it to increase. I don't have to go through any nefarious means. No one can withhold anything from me. I'm going to trust in the law, the Lord. Remember, it's synonymous. The law. Whenever you see the word Lord, L-O-R-D, you just put in the word law. Wherever you see the word Jehovah, you just put in the word law, or Yahweh, just put in the word law. That I will trust in the law. I will trust in the law. I will trust in I am. And it will bring to me my own. And I will forsake the belief that I have got to contort myself and do something harm to another or compromise my principles in order to have what I need. That takes spiritual maturity. That's not easy. If you don't hold to that idea, if you stop feeding the mashed potatoes, guess what? It's going to get hard to feed the mashed potatoes. You've got to hold on to the idea until your mind grabs hold to it. And that takes time. We just talked about this. Forgiveness roots out faulty strategies. Many problems in our businesses are systemic in nature. It is not what we face, but how we face it. Forgiveness pulls the faulty strategy out at the root. Case in point, if Bill Gates, well, let's just take somebody who's clearly he's done good financially, but somebody who we an acknowledged financial whiz, Carl Icahn, or Warren Buffett, any one of them, but someone that's an acknowledged financial whiz. Carl Icahn looking at my finances, me looking at my finances, we see two different things. Look at your resources, that increases them or decreases them. Even the ideas that occur to you. And the thing is that you have access to all of the ideas in the universe. But often we can't even perceive what is there because we've got anger in the way, we've got grudges in the way, we've got resentment in the way. We got all of this stuff in the way. So though we might have access to all of the resources of the universe, we can't access the resources of the universe because we're still mad about what so-and-so did to me back when we were in grade school. You cut off your opportunity when you hold on to anger. And you think, oh, well, it's because I started my business during a recession. No. God is everywhere evenly present. Good is everywhere evenly present. You can start your business in a snowstorm, and your business is selling snow or heat or whatever. But my point is that it is not the outer conditions that determine your success. You can succeed in any climate. What you got to do is clear up what's happening in your mind, because your business is an extension of your mind. And if you are a spiritual being, then your business is a spiritual entity. And if the thoughts for running your business come out of your own mind, and your own mind is cluttered with anger and frustration and hate and resentment and grudges and whatever it's cluttered with, how are you going to get creative and innovative? Where does that come in? You compromise your own innovation and your own creativity because you're still mad at your mama for what she did 10 years ago or 30 years ago or whatever. You got to let it go. And the forgiveness helps you to do that, because what you want is permanent release. I don't want to hold on to this no more. I don't want this in my way at all, right? And so the forgiveness enables you to fully release it, to permanently release it, and meaning that it doesn't come up ever again. And if it comes back up, you know that you haven't forgiven it. If it was dormant for a while and all of a sudden you remember it, there's some forgiveness that needs to be done. And so allow that process to happen. Forgiveness frees your ability to grow. Okay, I feel like I'm talking ahead of my little slides. This is a quote from Gary Keller's The One Thing. Great book to add to your library, The One Thing. And what he says is personal productivity is the building block of all business profit. Great businesses are built one productive person at a time. A business can't have unproductive people yet magically still have an immensely profitable business. Lack of forgiveness is one of the greatest productivity killers. Personal productivity, it's the building block of all business profit. But you cannot have unproductive people and then magically have an immensely profitable business. It just doesn't work like that. So forgiveness is what unblocks your productivity. A lot of the slowdowns when you feel tired and sluggish and angry or resistant to move forward with whatever idea it is that you're working on, is some forgiveness. And so that's the time to say, wait, who do I need to let go? Who's in the way? Who am I angry with? Who am I holding on to? Let me release them because my greatness depends on it. And well, at least here, I'll speak for me. I want extraordinary results. I do not want just ordinary results. I'm really not satisfied with it. It don't even feel good inside of me. Mediocre, just it don't look good on me. It don't smell good on me, right? So I need everything that I'm holding on to out of the way. Because I want, if the Christ presence lives in me and lives in you, and that is the extraordinary life force that animates the entire universe, keeps the stars in the sky, keeps this wonderful universe in perfect balance, that no tree has to die in order for me to breathe, and that everything stays in its proper place, that everything just works in this universe, and this same life force breathes itself as me. How extraordinary am I? How extraordinary are you? Why would you not want to let that out? What could that become if you truly grasped what's in you? What could that become? What could you do? Where could you go? Who could you be? And you traded for a grudge? You traded for prolonged sadness? It like when you start weighing them, it's like this don't even add up. I'm holding on to something somebody did to me back in such and such time in exchange for pouring out of me the only force there is in the universe, that I have master, dominion, and authority over a portion of that life force to press out into expression. And I'm willing to trade all of this greatness for a grudge? Oh, come on. It ain't that deep. Whatever you did to me, it's not worth me not letting the God presence inside of me out. It's just not worth it. Constance says, I'm in line, in tune with you tonight. I'm reading the Dynamic Laws of Prosperity on page 45. Forgiveness is the answer, along with forgiveness techniques. Thank you for this beautiful truth. Yes, it is. We trade our fortune for a grudge. We trade our fortune for anger. We trade, I don't know how to say this indifferently, but when you think about the majesty of God, right? You think about the mountains and the pyramids and the the inventions that we have come up with, and just think about all of this, and the fact that this universe forever and for always, it just continually expands, right? The universe is constantly expanding, and there is no end to that expansion, and that we have invented the possibility to now leave the earth plane, that we have worked with the laws of gravity and figured out how to exit the planet. That's just huge. That's massive, right? And so each one of us has been given access to this energy to express in the way that fits our gifts and talents. And we trade it in exchange for holding on to a grudge against somebody that did something to you. It wasn't even yesterday. Whatever it is we angry about, it wasn't even yesterday. It's like we gotta, we gotta like weigh these things. They're like, it doesn't even add up. It's like, you ain't worth me being great. I'm gonna let you go. Constance says, go ahead, teach. Stop trading my greatness for a darn grudge. Girls out to cuss. Not worth it. Where he says, wow, so much to digest. Thanks for a scrumptious lesson. You are welcome. This is the last piece, and this is the part that really just hit me and hit home. Forgiveness restores vitality. It is on page, hold on, let me see if I can find it quickly. Yep, it is on page 144. And I went and I looked this up. So this is what the slide says. Sad and depressing emotions augment the amount of poisonous toxins in the body and slows down the body's ability to eliminate them. Daily forgiveness removes the emotions that produce these toxins. So I went and looked this guy up because he quoted it in the book. Ray says, can I email you the slides? Yes, I will do that. And I'll make sure I do it because Yvonne asked me for that a couple of weeks ago. And I owe you guys a couple of slides. So my apologies for that. So this is on page 144, and it says, Professor Gates of the Psychological Laboratory of Washington, D.C., in an experiment testing the emotions and reactions of the body, found some interesting results. He found some 40 bad emotions and many more that were good. Of all the bad emotions, he said the reaction of guilt was the worst. This deduction was gained by a chemical analysis of the perspiration taken from the body. A small quantity of perspiration was taken from each emotional reaction and tested. The bad emotion showed a strong acid test. Now, if you put some acid on your flesh, you know what will happen. The acid will burn, and if allowed to continue to burn, it will prove painful and destroy the very tissue of your flesh. It is just such a chemical reaction that is affecting the tissue and organism of the body when these destroying thoughts are allowed to harbor within and generate a poison which weakens and eventually destroys the body. So I went and looked up this guy's research for the blog post, and I talk about it a little bit in today's blog post. And what it is that when we hold anger, hate, disgust, disappointment, sadness, grief, any of these emotions, any negative emotion, what happens is that the balance of negative toxins, meaning poisonous toxins in the body, shoots up, right? Well, the good news is that we, oh wait, Alita says, what is the name of that book? Oh, Alita, I think I was referring to Gary Keller, The One Thing. Gary Keller, The One Thing. So anyway, what happens is that when you hold on to these emotions, those toxins in the body shoot up. The good news is that we excrete them. We excrete them in perspiration and so in sweat. And that's what this experiment does, is that it took the sweat of people holding on to different emotions, and it looked at the excretions. And so what he saw was that when somebody held onto the emotion of anger, or when somebody thought about all the bad things that happened to them and drummed up all of that feeling, that when they tested the sweat or the whatever other excretions, urine, bowel movements, whatever, what they saw was an increase in poisonous toxins in the body. But here's the thing. When you are in those states, you become lethargic, and it actually slows down the exit of those toxins from the body. So when you realize that our bodies are at least 70% water, And then you hold on to that sadness and that grief over time. And then you add to it the fact that the sadness and the grief and all of the depressing thoughts basically slow down the body's ability to throw it off. That literally we are killing ourselves when we do not forgive. What forgiveness is about is erasing the negative emotions that produce the toxins that poison the body. The action of forgiving is getting rid of the long-held anger that is absolutely producing an effect in the body. And the thing is that when it becomes an effect in the body in the form of cancer, diabetes, whatever, we keep trying to trace it to a physical cause. Well, I ate too much sugar. Guess what? There's a lot of folk eat too much sugar, right? The stuff shows up. The body is 70% water. There's a Japanese scientist. I cannot call his name, and some of you know it because I know you've seen the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? And in What the Bleep Do We Know, this scientist talks about holding emotions, and he would have people hold different emotions and hold a glass of water. And then under a microscope, he would look at the crystalline patterns of the water based on the different emotions, and he saw different patterns show up based on the emotion that they were feeling. Our bodies are at least 70% water. When we hold on to these emotions, and you think about the things that you have held on to, if there's anger that you have held on to, or sadness that you have held on to, or depression that you have held on to, and if you even held it for more than 24 hours, think about what it is doing to your body. What forgiveness does is it gets rid of those emotions and limits the impact that those emotions get to have on the body. It is so critical to our survival and our well-being, and not just us personally, but also everything that is a part of us, our businesses, our families, our friendships, our churches, all of that. That forgiveness is a part of our daily practice. Thank you. Constance says Masaru Emoto. That is his name. Masaru Emoto. Emoto, E-M-O-T-O. You can look up his work. I think he made his transition, I don't know, like a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago. But you can look up his work. He's written a book, and he writes about this very thing, about how the emotions impact the water, literally just water that you're holding in a bottle. And again, remembering that our bodies are 70% water. So daily forgiveness removes the toxins that produce the emotions that produce these toxins. So in review, and thank you guys, I went over a little bit. Got to work on my time better. Number one, forgiveness makes you better. Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. Forgiveness lifts you above whatever it is, makes you greater than whatever it is that is the problem. Number two, forgiveness roots out faulty strategies. Faulty strategies do not correct themselves. Someone must change the course of action, and you do that first by forgiving the faulty strategy. Forgive the mistake. Number three, forgiveness frees your business to grow. All causes are spiritual. Forgiveness frees you to work on the level of spirit and affect permanent change. Number four, forgiveness restores vitality. Our bodies are at least 70% water, and the emotions we entertain shape that water. Negative emotions have a negative effect when held over time. So my call to action to you this week is to give yourself 30 days to work with forgiveness daily. And each day that you successfully practice forgiveness, mark it on a calendar to keep track. And then finally, leave a comment on YouTube on this video with your results. Let us hear back from you how that worked for you. But give yourself a 30-day challenge. So thank you guys for tonight. Constance says, yes, and during that time I found a website that provides affirmations to put on your water bottles, drinking glasses, etc. I have some on my fridge. Myra, Constance, Constance Meyer says, can you send it to her? She puts her email address there. Say hi, Jordan. Say hi. Yeah. Oh, you got milk on yourself. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. No, don't do that. Okay, he's gone. Bye. Bye-bye. Oh, he's running after my brother. Jordan, everybody says hi to you. Thank you so much. I don't know if we have any questions. I gotta like rearrange my time because I've been going over these last couple of weeks, and I apologize for that. I try to keep it solidly at an hour. But let me know if there are any questions on forgiveness. I hope I have made the case. You know, the thing that I got when I was writing the blog post and working on today's lesson, it was like, you know, the things that we do, that we talk about in our spiritual communities, people think they only apply to us in like religious connotations. Like even when you say the word forgiveness, it brings up the idea of Jesus and the church and all that. But these things have to come out of the church. They got to come out into our everyday lives. Judy says, maybe you could just say the MBH is 90 minutes. I'd be up for that. You know, it used to be 90 minutes. And someone said, what did they tell me? They said it was, you know, people would see a video, and if it was 90 minutes, they may not be willing to watch, you know, 90 minutes. So I'm willing to listen. This is my favorite conversation to have. I can do this all day long. So 90 minutes is not an issue. But the thing that I got with forgiveness is that it really is it's so much more than just what you do in a religious context, right? If that's where you leave it, then you miss the power of it, and it's so much bigger than just than just, you know, I forgive you because you hurt my feelings. Alita says, what is the site for the affirmations? I think you are referring, Alita, to... Oh, Constance, can you give me the site for Masaru Emoto? Masaru Emoto. In fact, I'm going to... Okay. If you give it to me, I'll post it in the chat room for the people that are watching from the chat room. The author or scientist is Masaru Emoto. Masaru Emoto. And in his book, well, here, let's see what the book is called. His book is called, yeah, he died in October last year, so not even a year ago. And he wrote a book on water crystals. And the name of the book... okay, I'm not finding it immediately. Yeah, I'm not finding his book immediately, but he wrote a book basically. And when I first was exposed to him, he was in the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, which is a great documentary to read. I think it's called The Hidden Messages in Water. I think that's the name of the book. Yep, The Hidden Messages in Water. That's the name of the book. Great research, great information. And let me see if Constance put that in there. Oh, Constance says she'll find the site. She'll find the site and then she'll send it. And so what I'll do is, Constance, if you send that to me, the email that I send out tonight will have the slides in it, and also oh, here we go. Okay. And the Amazon link for the book. Thank you, Judy, for pulling that. Okay. Oh, trophy. Okay, great. All right, so that link that I just put in there is the Amazon link for the Hidden Messages in Water. Wonderful. Thank you guys for tonight. This was fun. I love talking about forgiveness because it's so powerful, and I always hope to demystify it. I always hope to like bring it out of the realm of religion and bring it into the realm of, wait, this is a practical, everyday way to live. So hopefully I did that. Thank you so much for tonight. I bless you, and I release you lovingly. JJ says, thank you, lots to think on. I release you lovingly in the Spirit of Christ, and I affirm that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and so it is. Have an absolutely beautiful night, and I will see you guys next week. Oh, we're on chapter 10, Law of Sacrifice. Chapter 10, Law of Sacrifice. That is next week's lesson. All right. See you guys. So, Constance, I'll wait for that email before I send my email out to everybody. All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.